Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha with Nature Niche, and this week I want to share a really cool experience I had this last Saturday helping to reintroduce lake sturgeon into the Tittabawassee River as part of a larger Saginaw Bay restoration effort. So, lake sturgeon are a state threatened species here in Michigan, and they're found in large rivers and lakes in North America. And here in Michigan, we're at the heart of its historic range. It was brought to the brink of extinction through habitat loss, environmental degradation, and pretty awful overharvesting. And there have been other challenges as well, with decreases in water quality and other contaminants in their habitats, sea lamprey, parasitism, zebra mussel takeover of their spawning habitats, and egg predation by invasive round gobies. This long-lived fish is one that's been around for a very long time, back swimming around during the time of the dinosaurs, and it has a torpedo-shaped body covered by 5 rows of bony plates called scutes. And it's a benthic species that can be found in the unvegetated deep run and pool habitats in rivers and shallow areas in lakes. They spawn in June, usually in gravel bottom streams, but they can spawn in rocky wave-swept shores and islands in lakes when riverine habitats are scarce. So these releases are being conducted by a bunch of partners working together, and they usually happen in August and September. And if you have a chance to help with one of these releases, it was just an awesome experience. And I want to give a shout out to the folks from Chippewa Nature Center, the Michigan State University Extension Sea Grant Program, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for letting me film and share this event with you. I hope you enjoy.
Sturgeon release. My name is Dennis Pulaski, and I'm Executive Director at Chippewa Nature Center, and we're the local host for this particular release, and throughout the day there's a handful of other releases going on around the Saginaw Bay watershed. I just want to welcome you to this area. Thank you so much for coming out to support this incredible restoration project, and I'm going to turn it over to folks who know a whole lot more about what's going to happen today than I do. So thanks very much for coming over. I'm going to introduce you to Megan Goss. Megan's from Michigan State University Extension through the Sea Grant Program, and she's going to share some information with you.
Thank you, Dennis. Well, we are so excited to have all you here today to be a part of the Saginaw Bay Sturgeon restoration effort. This effort is part of a large partnership to bring back sturgeon. This fish used to be one of the most common fish in the Saginaw River system, and now it is currently a threatened fish in the state of Michigan. So, preceded by lots of habitat restoration, removing dams, improving water quality, we are bringing the fish back home to the Saginaw River system. This event and project would not be possible with lots of partnership. With our work, we always say you can do more through partnership, and this event is really evidence of that. So we appreciate all of you showing up to be a part of the sturgeon restoration and helping to release and hopefully share about sturgeon with your family and friends that weren't able to be here. So every year we release fish into the Saginaw River system in August and September. We've been doing this since 2017, and it's part of a large effort to bring back these fish. It involves many partners, including U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Michigan Department of Natural Resources, MSU Department of Fisheries and Wildlife, who help to rear these fish and help to make sure that they are ready to go when we bring them home. It also involves lots of local hosts and partners to facilitate these events. In addition to this release here in Midland, we're also going to be releasing fish in Chesaning, Frankenmuth, and Flint. So there's lots of opportunities to celebrate. And that would not be possible without partners from Chippewa Nature Center, the Flint River Watershed Coalition, the City of Frankenmuth, and the Friends of the Shiawassee River.
If you're a visual person like I am, here's a map that they had on site showing where all of these different sturgeon releases were happening on Saturday, the river systems that all feed into Saginaw Bay.
This event is also supported by other partners like the Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe and the Saginaw Bay Wind, Bay County, and many, many, many other partners. Again, this is all the result of many people working together. So I've shared a little bit about this sturgeon effort, and you can learn more by visiting SaginawBaySturgeon.org or checking out any of the table resources we have over here, or exploring how you can help protect the Saginaw River system and the Tittabawassee River by stopping the spread of invasive species. But we're going to learn a little bit more about the sturgeon and where these came from Justin with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I was told to give you a little background about lake sturgeon in Saginaw Bay and kind of the process of where these fish came from, some of the research that we do with these fish as well. So Megan can just tell me when to stop talking. So historically in Lake Huron, there were 33 tributaries that supported lake sturgeon populations. Right now, within the state of Michigan and U.S., there's a population in the St. Mary's River up near Sault Ste. Marie, and there's a population in the St. Clair River. That's it. There was a lot of other tributaries along the state of Michigan, the AuSable River, Rifle River, Saginaw River, that all historically supported sturgeon populations. So what we're trying to do throughout efforts throughout the U.S., really, and throughout the lake sturgeon's native range, is restore populations where we believe habitat currently exists, where these fish could come back and spawn, right? So really early on, the Saginaw River watershed was considered a watershed that had high potential for sturgeon restoration. I know I first started working with the Fish and Wildlife Service like in 2010, and we were already talking about Saginaw River, when will sturgeon be released, and gosh, in 2017 was actually the first release of sturgeon, and it was right here. It was just a single release into the Tittabawassee River, where 200 fish were released. And so what we're trying to do is, like Megan already said, is rebuild the sturgeon population in the Saginaw River watershed. And we're not just stocking one tributary, but as Megan said, we're stocking 4 different tributaries. I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions, but I'll just kind of go through where these fish came from. I already mentioned St. Clair River is one of the remnant sturgeon populations, and that is probably the largest lake sturgeon population in the Great Lakes. So we might not have a lot, but the ones we do have are really big. So we estimate that there's about 20,000 spawning adult sturgeon or adult sturgeon in the upper St. Clair River that utilize that area. So working with the Michigan DNR and other project partners, we were like, well, that would be a pretty good source population for stocking tributaries around the Great Lakes, right? So because there's 20,000 fish there. So since 2017, the Fish and Wildlife Service and Michigan DNR, Ministry of Natural Resources, we've been collecting eggs from female lake sturgeon caught in the St. Clair River. So that's a big part of Jason and my job. In June is when those fish spawn. It's really challenging area to sample. There's freighters that run through there. It's 60 foot of water. We catch them on set lines. We bring them back to the U.S. Coast Guard station. We have 6 big tanks set up where we're running water in tanks. We have females separated out and males separated out because we don't want males and females in the same tanks. It takes about 2 weeks of work. Once we get enough females and enough males for genetic diversity, we begin collecting the eggs. That takes just 1 day, the egg collection process. Those eggs go to the Maumee River down in Toledo, Ohio, in another project, and they also go to the Genoa National Fish Hatchery. So on Monday, Jason and I drove to the Genoa National Fish Hatchery with our other crew, and we pit tagged about 2,000 lake sturgeon for stocking into the Great Lakes. We're going to be stocking about 400 today, but you guys, I'm sure you've already seen the pit tags. What they are is a unique identifier for each fish. They're basically the same thing that goes in your bags.
So here's a close-up look at those pit tags that each of the fish we were releasing, we're outfitted with.
Right, and what we want to do is anybody that recaptures a sturgeon, they have to have this kind of fancy pit tag scanner. This one is a little more expensive. They're cheap too, but anybody who has one of these can scan a sturgeon and they can tell, oh, that fish was originally tagged in the same. I mean, fish right here on Saginaw Bay come from all over the place. Sturgeon do, all right? They come from Green Bay maybe. They might be from the St. Clair River. They move a lot. But anybody with one of these scanners can scan a fish and be like, oh, that was a fish that was released by you in the Tittabawassee River in 2023. It's unique to each fish. In addition to the pit tagging, we're also doing an acoustic telemetry project, which is a fancier thing. The pit tags cost about $2. The acoustic telemetry tags cost a few $100. They give you a lot more information. And what we're doing that for is we don't want to just be stocking these fish in the water and kind of walk away and be like, all right, I hope they make it, and we're done. The acoustic telemetry tags, they actually tell us survival rates, habitat use, and movement. So we know, where the fish are going, if they survived or not. And that's a project that's being done by Michigan State University. It was funded by the Saginaw Bay Watershed Initiative Network and Great Lakes Fishery Trust. And we just are getting the data back from that because those first fish were stocked out last year at this time. The tags last a year. So one of the things we anticipate about a year after stocking, the fish are probably 14 to 16 inches. They're probably like that. So we know that after a year, survival is going to be really high. So that's kind of the most vulnerable life period, right, that we're trying to get that survival information from. We don't have any acoustic telemetry fish in here right now. Those are still at Genoa. We're going back next week to get them. But those are the two different tags that are in the fish, and all the fish today will just have the pit tags in them. So that's all I have.
Well, thank you so much, Justin. We hope you appreciated learning a little bit more about where these fish came from. And in addition to these fish just being really cool, they're also a culturally significant species for the Anishinaabe, thinking of the Three Fires Confederacy and the original and continued caretakers of Michigan. So I want to highlight sturgeon as you may, as in addition to wanting just to bring this fish back because it is a very cool fish. It is also tied to so many of the different tribal nations around Michigan, including the Saginaw Chippewa Indian tribe. So now, are we ready to release some sturgeon?
So when sturgeon hatch, they imprint on their home waters, and by releasing them as young here in the Tittabawassee River, the hope is that they will return to this same river to spawn and to help reestablish a population in this part of the Saginaw Bay watershed.
Good
luck, little one.
Yeah, the 9 to 12-year-olds were a lot happier to be there than the teenagers were.
Why are we doing?
It was so much fun getting a chance to release that lake sturgeon. So participating in these events is one way to get involved. I will drop a link to the Saginaw Bay Sturgeon Restoration website. They also have an Adopt a Sturgeon program with different adoption package levels available, so you can help support these efforts to continue. You can also, if you're fishing and you happen to catch a lake sturgeon, you can report that on the Michigan DNR's Eyes in the Field website, and I'll include a link to that as well. So people and lake sturgeon have lived interconnected lives in the Great Lakes region for hundreds of years, and being part of this event to reestablish that connection was absolutely amazing. Take care and have a good week.